Hello everyone and hope you enjoyed the holidays. I have made a number of changes to my Wizardry calculation spreadsheet. A link to the spreadsheet can be found in the description of this video. The healing and physical damage spreadsheets are now merged into one single spreadsheet with multiple worksheets to make it easier for me to update. I have also added a magical damage calculation worksheet. I have added the coefficient and calculations for the following skills. Level 1 Earth Shattering Strike. Level 1 Poised All-Out Strike. All levels of Decisive Torso Strike. All levels of Poison Attack. Level 1 to 3 of Astra Break on Arboris. Level 1 to 3 of Inherited Astra Break. And finally, Level 1 to 5 of 1000 Hue Blossom on Yuzunamiki. Gentle reminder that heavy attack, precision strike and armor pierce scales similarly. Heavy attack has an accuracy boost, precision strike a surety boost, and armor pierce has defense penetration. First, let's talk about the two new fighter skills, Earth Shattering Strike and Poised All-Out Strike. Earth Shattering Strike is basically heavy attack 5 with a lower upper bound. This means it does the same damage as heavy attack 5 until you have more than 600 attack. After 600, heavy attack 5 does more damage, however it costs 23 SP compared to the 7 SP for Earth Shattering Strike. Poised All-Out Strike is in a similar situation. It has nearly the same coefficient as heavy attack 7, but a lower upper bound and is more SP efficient. Right now, there are not many reasons to level up heavy attack on characters you plan to keep as fighters. Dalto can now roam free instead of being kept in Inherit Jail. Decisive Torso Strike is basically heavy attack times 1.2. At every level it has 1.2 times the coefficient and upper bound. Because of how damage calculation work, the actual damage difference is not 20%, but can range from 25 to 40%, depending on attack power and enemy defense. Decisive Torso Strike is much less SP efficient though. You are using 80% more SP for that 25 to 45% damage difference, assuming same skill level. If you compare difference skill level though, level 3 Decisive Torso Strike is comparable to level 5 Heavy Attack, dealing roughly the same levels of damage for similar SP costs. Poison Attack scales surprisingly well and is very SP efficient compared to other skills. The advantage it brings is having a high upper bound compared to the SP it consumes. This weights it more towards a one-handed skill rather than a two-handed skill, as you are more likely to hit the upper bound with a one-handed weapon. Poison Attack 7 has the same scaling as Heavy Attack 5, but 200 higher upper bound assuming a one-hander, and about the same SP cost. 23 for Heavy Attack 5 versus 24 for Poison Attack 7. Assuming you have 600 attack with a one-hander, Poison Attack 7 can do 1026 per hit versus 810 from Heavy Attack 5 against a 300 defense enemy. However, Poison Attack 1 to 5 do not really compare well, and level 6 is kind of a side grade to Heavy Attack. Astra Break is still a decent inherit. At level 1, for 20 SP it does about the same damage as a 23 SP Heavy Attack 5. At level 3 for 36 SP, it does about the same damage as a 40 SP Heavy Attack 7. It also has about 20% defense penetration, build-in mini Porto and Earth-typed damage. But in a post-level 60 world, both Earth Shattering Strike and Poised All-Out Strike are free. The only one you would consider inheriting Astra Break are maybe one-handed fighters or non-Debra thieves. It is however useful for turn order shenanigans. Speaking of damage typing, the resistance weakening skills that mages learn at level 67 are potentially useful. At level 1, they give about 20% type advantage. Physical abilities by default deals physical damage, they do not deal untyped damage. The Cones line, Erlik, Dalto line, Malefic Wind and Moment of Finality that specifically says untyped damage counts as untyped damage. physical abilities with an elemental weapon or elemental skill does that elemental damage, and that gets boost by resistance weakening. Since we have silver tier water and earth elemental weapons now, Ekaterina or a mage Alice can contributes a fair amount of effective DPS in theory by just applying earth or water resistance weakening. Now for an entire section on Yuzunamiki. For the sake of transparency, I currently have her at Discipline 4 and her skill at level 5. From my tests, Vitality Jutsu is roughly a 10% increase to attack power at full HP. Level 1 dual wielding adds roughly 20% of offhand attack power for skill damage calculation. With both dual wield and Vitality Jutsu active, if we assume 350 attack power main hand and 300 attack power offhand, the actual attack used for skill calculations is 445 attack power. Her hairpin hits 3 times and has 10% defense penetration. This simply means if you fight against a 300 defense enemy, enter 270 for the defense value instead. If you look at the coefficient table for level 1000 Hue Blossom, it has coefficient of 1.3 with an upper bound of 100. With the hairpin, you hit 6 times with 1000 Hue Blossom, which means the skill effectively has a coefficient of 3.9 even after hitting the upper bound. To compare, level 3 full power strike with a two-hander has a base coefficient of 3.96. The only disadvantage is defense get calculated 6 times as well. Or so it seems. If you look at the coefficient table compared to other skills, I was able to test and observed a very noticeable constant. At level 1, it is 90, which means it effectively ignores 180 defense each hit, before damage amplification. So a pseudo-defense penetration, but better. To make things even sillier, let's raise 1000 Hue Blossom to level 3. Now we go from an upper bound of 100 to 280 and a base coefficient of 1.3 to 1.6. SB cost goes from 12 to 21 or slightly less than twice. Before Foxfire, at an effective 445 attack power against a 300 defense enemy, level 1 Hue does 1320 damage compared to 2670 at level 3. Divide by the base cost of 12 and 21 SB respectively, you have level 1 Hue having an SB to damage efficiency of 110 and level 3 Hue having an efficiency of 127. This is one of the rare cases in the game where leveling the skill increases not just the damage, but improves its cost efficiency as well. Foxfire itself at roughly a 10% type advantage damage increase when it is active, and the additional hit has a coefficient of around 1.5. All of these combined makes 1000 Hue Blossom scale at a better rate than pretty much every other skill. Yuzunamiki is currently without a doubt the best DPS unit in the game. You know she is overpowered, but calculating things out makes her even more ridiculous when you compare her to other characters. On top of all the DPS she deals, both the hairpin and Hue have a chance to charm, giving her some crowd control capabilities as well. She should be due for class change and rerun either the end of this month or early next month. I am very tempted to D9 her even if her class change is to something weak like mage. Towards the bottom of the physical calculation worksheet is a new section to compare one-handed damage against two-handed damage. Key in the appropriate values and see whether one-handed or two-handed is better for you. Using my Lana as an example, she has 550 attack power with a Cuisinart and 1010 attack power with a silver greatsword. Ignoring surety difference, against a 300 defense enemy, Poised all-out strike is slightly better two-handed than one-handed, but FPS 3 and heavy attack 7 are better one-handed. Mages scale extremely poorly. Level 1 Halido and level 1 Mental Unity works out to a modified 1.9 coefficient, going all the way to 2.8 for level 7 Halido. Two-handed heavy attack 1 starts at 1.8 and goes all the way to 2.7. Add in Way of the Warrior and it becomes 1.9 and 2.9 respectively. An arcane staff has 180 magic power at level 20, and a staff of splendor has 216 magic power at level 20, so a difference of 36 magic power. An ebon steel greatsword has 200 attack power at level 20, and a silver greatsword has 231 attack power at level 20, so a difference of 31 attack power. At face value, this looks fairly balanced. Mages and fighters seems to have the same coefficient scaling, and power increases from different weapons tier are similar. However, two-handed weapons have strength plus and silver tier-handed weapons have a higher strength plus value than ebon steel. Mages do not get additional sources of intelligence to magic power conversion. The attack power blessing on all equipment are doubled when you equip a two-hander. No equivalent of that for mages. Mages are still balanced off one-handed weapon upper bound progression. However, a fighter attacks twice or even thrice with a one-hander, while mages only hits once. Spells other than Erlik and True Words of Fire cannot reliably surety hit. Currently, if I heavily stack attack power or magic power on a character, I can get around 1100 attack power, but I can barely crack 700 magic power. Using that 700 magic power number, a level 7 single target nuke can do about 1998 damage to a 300 magic defense target. 2000 damage looks decent, but I only need 800 attack power to match that with heavy attack 7, and this is ignoring surety hits, which will tilt the scale towards heavy attack. If the argument is on efficiency, the argument is lost since level 1 Poised at 800 attack power does 1962 damage for 12 SP and Earth Shattering Strike 1 does 1530 for 7 SP. We also have the current Queen of SP to damage efficiency, Miss Yuzunamiki. Recovering SP is also significantly easier. Nourishing drafts are easily available, and we have Deborah's Blessing of the Beastfolk Goddess. Mages literally gained 0 single target capability going from 60 to 70. Malefic Wind add buff removal to a mage's utility kit. It does about the same damage as a rank 4-line AoE spell for roughly the same cost. But compared to what fighters get, why does Malefic Wind have such a low upper bound? Even Yekaterina's new Grand Burial Erlik has pretty lackluster scaling from initial tests. Hope Mages gets a balancing pass before we get a new super boss. There are still a lot of calculations that are missing, and I will slowly work through them. Hope the updated spreadsheet is of use to you. Leave a comment if you see anything wrong and I will take a look at it.